something. All right, guys, I have a lot of stuff with me today. I don't know if you noticed. I have a lot. Anyway, we'll get to all this in a minute. But how y'all doing on a scale of this to this? What?
This.
That's not in. No, this, or this.
What about this?
Okay, sure, that too. Okay, pointing at me, interesting. Well, if you're doing any of those, I'm glad that you're here, existing and pointing your thumb at me. Thank you for doing that. So, question for you. Who doesn't like, well, I guess, I'll ask this way. What is your favorite superhero or superheroine? Anyone? Favorite superhero? Shout it out.
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan. Hawkeye. Captain America. I hear like...
B-movie guy.
What?
B-movie guy.
B-movie guy. Okay, interesting. What? SpongeBob? Oh, Spider-Man, yes. Yeah, I love it. I have like 4 different favorite superheroes. It's like between Spider-Man, but both Spider-Mans, so Miles Morales and Peter Parker. And also I really like Black Panther and a couple of other, Doctor Strange. Yeah, I like a lot of superheroes. I love them. And those are just a few of them. I like more. And besides the cool costumes, the awesome accessories, the sweet powers, more than that, I think one of the reasons that so many people love superheroes is because of what they do. They see something that's wrong that's happening around them and they make it right. They take action to solve a problem. They step up and defend. In other words, they do something. See what I did there? Do something about it. Over the next few weeks, we're going to talk about the very same thing. But first, we need to learn more about injustice and take a look at what God has to say about it and how we can do something about injustice in the world around us. So let's start by defining injustice together. Before I do that, I'm actually going to define justice. Justice is when something is right, fair, or equal. And we all know what that is. Since you were a kid, you've probably said, that's not fair. Or if you have younger siblings, you've heard them say, that's not fair. Or if there's ever one last candy bar left and your sibling took it, you said, that's not fair. Yeah, we all know what is fair and not fair. Injustice is simply that things are unfair, unequal, or not right. And there are probably a lot of things when you think of when you hear the word injustice. Maybe it means things like children who are starving, or families who are in poverty, or people who don't have access to clean drinking water, or natural disasters, or racism, or people not being able to pay for laundry, and instead they have to choose between laundry or food. That actually happens in our community in Westminster, and I'll come back to that, but it's the kind of stuff, injustice is the kind of stuff we know is wrong, but if we're honest, it kind of feels too big to do something about it. And I get that feeling. Some of the most obvious injustices in the world, it feels like we just can't overcome them. And because of that, we hang up our superhero cape and we're like, I'm just going to let somebody who's more qualified, who's older, who has more experience, who has more resources and money, I'm going to let them do it. I'm just going to hang out over here. But what if I told you that you have a lot more power to do something about injustice than you realize? What if I told you that right now, as a middle schooler, you have the potential to right wrongs, to make things better in the world, and to fix things that are unfair? Let me show you what I mean. Have you ever set up, in the video here, have you ever set up, a domino path? Anyone? Raise your hand. Yes, yeah. It's super fun. But you can't just, go. That was super lame. It was 2 dominoes. No, you have to first, set it up one at a time, right? Yeah. So the thing is, it's injustice, and doing something about injustice is kind of similar. Where we have to first set ourselves up for success. And just like dominoes, you can't take action without taking first steps when it comes to injustice. And the first step in this whole conversation of injustice is really important. It is seeing. First, we have to see an injustice, see that something is wrong, before we can do something about it, right? I mean, that makes sense. Whether we realize it or not, there are a lot of injustices all around us. Some are really small, some are really big, but they're all around us. They're happening in the world every day. And the problem is, oftentimes, we just don't see them. Like, we don't recognize them. We don't notice that they're there. Think about these injustices. And maybe you've heard of these, maybe you haven't. Did you know that some teenagers can afford a tutor when they're struggling at school, but some can't? Did you know that some people can join like a sports team, but others can't because they can't pay for it? Did you know that some people have to protest in the streets to actually get their voices heard? Did you know that some schools can give all of their students laptops for like digital learning, but then some schools don't have the resources or technology to do that? That's not fair. But did you know that some students, they're forced to wear the exact same thing every day? Did you know that two students of different races can get caught for the exact same thing, doing the wrong thing, same way, and only one of them will get punished? Did you know that some middle schoolers get bullied every single day on like Snapchat or Instagram and no one says anything? Did you know that a guy and a girl might have the exact same grades in school, but one of them is going to get treated like they're smarter? Did you know that some people have no money, so they have to beg for it on the side of the road? Did you know that literally in Westminster, there are people that they have to choose, okay, this week we're going to pay for either laundry or food. Which one are we going to pay? And some of you who've been around for a while, you know we've raised money for that problem before. We're going to do it again in the series, but I'll get to that in a minute. Now, for some of you, a lot of this isn't brand new. You've heard this before. You're like, yep, I know. Why are you telling me this again? And some of you, you're like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, half this stuff was, like, brand new to you. And for some of you, you're feeling those injustices right now. I don't know. I don't know where any of you are at, but that's totally okay. But what do we do about it now? I think there's something inside most of us that wants to see things that are wrong made right. I think most of us want that. We want things to be right. And part of the problem is that we just don't see the problem. We don't see the injustices around us. So the first step to doing something is just to see. All right? The first step is just seeing. And if you haven't seen or experienced injustice, we're going to have some opportunities to help do something about it, to see it, and figure out ways that you can get involved in doing something about it. So, let me tell you a secret. Ready? Secret? Also, it's really hard to talk in a mask. Holy. Whew. All right. Here's my secret. We're not the first ones to have this problem. We're not the first ones to have this problem. People have been asking the question of what do we do about injustice for a really, really long time. And I think it's part of the reason that Jesus made a habit of pointing out things that were wrong and then doing something about them. He made his ministry on earth about helping people, about righting things that were wrong. And you see, today we're going to be looking at the story written down by a guy named Matthew. Matthew, he was actually one of the guys that followed Jesus around. He saw Jesus do all this awesome stuff, and he recorded it, which is awesome. And in this particular encounter, Jesus had people listening to him that were trying to understand what they needed to do to follow Jesus. And Jesus was like, all right, here's what you got to do. You got to care about those around you and care about the injustices that happen around you. And in this part we're about to read, Jesus was comparing righteous people to unrighteous people. Righteous people basically just means people who want to do the right thing and they care about those around them. Unrighteous people are the opposite. They don't really care about those around them. They're not really looking to do the right thing. They're looking out for themselves. Makes sense. So this is what Jesus said in Matthew 25, 34 through 39. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." And then the righteous will answer. Remember, righteous people, people looking to do good, will answer him. "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go visit you? All right, hold that slide there. You might be hearing this and think what the people were thinking when they were listening back then. They were like, what in the world is Jesus talking about? I don't remember any of this happening to Jesus. Like, I don't really remember him being like in prison except for like right before he died. And at this point he wasn't there yet. I don't remember him being naked at any point or being a stranger. Like, I don't remember this happening. And if you're thinking that, that is correct. You're right. Historically, those things did not happen to Jesus. This is what he was trying to help people realize. They didn't recognize that responding to injustices like these might be important parts of showing their love for Jesus. So this is what Jesus responds. The king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Did you catch that? Jesus was saying that righteous people, the people who want to act right and care about others, are the people who see and look for the injustices around them. They care about the least of these. They want to help those around them, the people that need help, the people that feel pain, and the people that get the worst treatment. They recognize when someone is hungry, when they need clothes, when they're sick and need help, and they care about it. They act on it, and they do something about it. Why? Well, because treating others with love and compassion, that is the same as treating Jesus with love and compassion. That's the same as loving Jesus. See, I think people listening at the time probably struggle with the same things that we do when it comes to injustice. We have a hard time seeing it because, well, for a lot of reasons, we have a hard time seeing it. And back then, they probably didn't see it. They probably didn't recognize it. And because of that, they didn't respond. But Jesus was reminding us to look around for those in our neighborhoods, those around us, who are struggling, who are hurting, who have needs, and to help them out. We all want to see wrong things become right. We want things to be fair and good and equal. And God wants that too. And that all starts with seeing. So before you can do something about injustice, you have to start with seeing it. And it's easy to think, oops, that's not good. That's fine. It's easy to think that it's like impossible to do anything about injustice. It's easy to think that injustice isn't even there. Maybe it's like uncomfortable and you're like, I don't want to recognize it or be impacted by it. Maybe you're just like, it's not really a big deal. But the truth is that injustice is everywhere. And if we want to be people who do something about it, we have to start by seeing it. Because before you can do something about injustice, you have to start by seeing it. Now, if you're a person who's experiencing any of the injustices I've talked about today, then I want to tell you that I'm really, really sorry that you're going through that. That sucks. That's not fair. That's not right. And we're going to go there. We're going to talk about what to do in your situation next week. But for today, so don't go anywhere. Come back next week. Today, though, I want us to focus on this. We have to see an injustice before we can do something about it. So how can we open our eyes to the world around us to see injustices? I have 2 tips for us to look around to see injustices. The first one, move close enough to see. You know, on those, like when you go to the doctor's office, the eye doctor, right? And there's those charts on the back wall, and they're like, all right, which lines can you read? And like there's the really bottom line, and I can never read it. I don't have great eyesight. I should be wearing glasses, but I'm not. Don't do what I'm doing. Just do what I say, not what I do. Just kidding. I try to do everything that I say, but just with the glasses thing, I don't. Anyway, the chart. You have to move closer to actually see it if you have bad eyesight like me. In the same way, I think with injustice, we have to actually move close enough to be able to see the injustice that's going on. And that can be really uncomfortable. It's easier to move away, to pretend injustice isn't happening, and just to put ourselves in a position that we're like, I don't know what's there. It's not my problem. But I think that we can move close enough to see it, and then stay there. And that's part of it. That's part of doing something about it is just seeing it. Maybe it means getting to know someone at school that's different than you. Maybe it means talking an injustice through with trusted adults. Maybe like in small groups. or going out and trying to figure out what you can actually do about injustices that you do see in your community, to change the way that you see the people and circumstances around you. And then second suggestion I have for you, be curious enough to learn. The quickest way to see an injustice is to listen to people who've experienced an injustice, right? Like, if you know that someone's gone through something bad, the easiest way to figure out what they've gone through is listen to them. And not try to correct them, not try to fix it, but just listen. Just ask questions, try to learn. Don't argue, don't change the subject, don't give your opinion, just listen. And the more you'll listen, the more you'll learn, and then the more you'll see. And even if someone doesn't open up to you about an injustice that you're experiencing, what you can do is you can pick one that you know about, and then you can go figure out what's going on there. Go talk to a trusted adult about it. Research it in your library if you like to research. Anyone like research?
No.
A couple of you like research. That's awesome. Go research it. Or go watch a YouTube video on it if you find a good one. I don't know. Not all of it's good, but some of it might be. Or learn about an organization that's doing something about the injustice that you care about. And then go see what they're doing about it. And here's a heads up. The stuff is going to be uncomfortable at first. It might be hard to hear about or difficult to see someone go through something that's just not fair. And it is certainly awful to experience injustice yourself. And you might struggle to understand it or recognize why it's so bad or even agree that the injustice is really wrong. But don't shy away from a conversation just because it makes you feel uncomfortable. What I want us to do this week is step into the uncomfortable and try to listen, try to learn about the injustices around us. Be curious about your own experiences too. Because maybe you've experienced something wrong against you, something unfair against you. You're like, oh, that's just how the world is. Maybe that was an unjust thing that maybe someone can do something about, or maybe you can do something about. Maybe it's like when you're really struggling at math, and then your family couldn't afford a tutor, and so then you had to work really hard and just got a decent grade. Or maybe you've contributed to injustice in some way, like you said something on social media, and then someone got offended, and you're like, wait a minute, what happened? What did I say? Maybe you just ask that person, listen, hey, what happened here? What did I say that offended you, that was wrong? Maybe they were right, maybe they weren't. I don't know. That's why we listen. That's why we're curious to figure out how we might be contributing to injustice and impacting the lives of those around us. If you want to do something about injustice around us, we have to start by moving close enough to see injustice. We have to start by being curious about the injustices of those around us. We have to be curious about our own experiences with injustice. Oh, it's going to stay. There it goes. All right. Nothing fell. Sweet. Just to wrap things up, Maya Angelou, she wrote a lot about injustice. She's awesome. She said this: do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. And that's our hope for this series. Our hope is that we can show you some injustices, and then you can figure out what you can actually do about them at the end of this series. But remember, here's where we're starting. Before you can do something about an injustice, you have to see it. So today in small groups, we're going to ask questions, we're going to look at injustices, we're going to see what we know. And we're just going to be curious and open and honest. And I hope that you all can help us by being kind and courteous to those around you and listening really well. All right, so as we head into our small groups today, here's what I want you to ask. What's one example of an injustice you see in your school, community, or neighborhood? All right, I'm going to pray, and then we're going to go into small groups. Dear God, thanks so much for this day. Thank you for allowing each and every one of us to be here, to hang out. God, I pray that you will reveal injustices around us to us so that we can see them, so we can think about them, so that we can learn about them, and then we can do something about them that's good, that brings rightness back into the world. God, we love you and thank you for all you do for us. Bless our conversation. In Jesus' name, amen. All right.